Kayla, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, we go way back. So I'm going to try and be as professional as I can be. But just know that I feel like I might have to edit parts of myself out.
Okay.
Let's just start with full name, mob, and a little bit about where you grew up and where you reside.
My name's Kaylah Tyson. I'm a Meerooni woman of the Gurang Nation with ties also to the Ngugi people of the Quandamooka region. Most people know me as Kaylah Truth or maybe even KMT if you've been around for that long. I grew up in Brisbane, south side of Brisbane, mostly in between Logan, so specifically Browns Plains. And then, back and forth in my teenage, early 20s, working in and around Brisbane and moved around Australia a lot, but I've just come back home to Brizzy.
Well, I'm glad you're here because when I wrote my list of podcast people I wanted to yarn to, you're my sister from another mister.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, we're going to have a good yarn. Why don't we just start maybe, early years growing up, any memories you have about culture, and then when you first discovered the arts and your passion for music and storytelling.
Well, I was born in Ipswich, so my very early years were living in my nan's house. And if you can just imagine, like a big 2-story house out the near Ipswich area, and it was a black house, so everyone lived there. Most of Nan's kids lived there, which is why we were there, because I was there with Mum. My dad was there at the time as well, and it was just always people in and out, always something happening. Nan cooking a big stew up to feed everyone. I'm the eldest grandchild, so I think I got a little bit spoiled. There was always someone there to read a book to me, or my aunties and uncles will actually talk about how Mary Poppins was constantly on repeat, and I used to make them all watch it with me, and they had to know the words, and if they didn't sing it right, then we had to start it again. So I didn't really think about it, but I would say that my interest in the arts and musical theatre probably started back then. But it probably would have just been, mixed in together, because growing up with my nan so close to me, and my pop as well, like they were both in politics in different ways, and they were very active in the community. All of my family, I would say, are activists in one way or another in their line of work that they do. And I took a very keen interest in learning as much as I could back then. But I was that kid that was, in the black organisations back in the days. I remember a lot of the aunties and uncles calling me that baby, because, it was just me somewhere around there with them. And I think there was actually a time where my mum says they were all the mob were in Musgrave Park, and they were about to get on the bus to go down to the tent embassy. I was only young then, like really, really young. And Mum had to jump on and say, "Who's got my kid? Like, where is she?" And they were like, "Oh, we thought the baby was coming with us." And Mum's like, "No, come on, she's too little." So I almost ended up in Canberra at the tent embassy very early on. But I guess that was my path in life, getting all played out for me from very early on.
100%. And you would have been exposed to a lot of great music, culture, politics. Now, let's go into those early teenage years, some of your musical influences, and then specifically travel down the lane of the hip-hop path and how that started.
Yeah. Biggest experience for me from early on, where I think it really, was pivotal in me deciding that was what I wanted to do, even if I didn't realise the weight of it at the time, would have been my mum taking me to a Salt-N-Pepa concert when I was 6 years old. So my mum was young, and when I think about it now, she probably didn't have a babysitter, or I don't know, but she took myself and my cousin, and my mum was having the time of her life. She was up on on the chair dancing. She was getting in trouble for standing on the chair dancing at the concert. But there's a lot of Brisbane community there who I still talk to these days, people that have gone into the music world as well. And I think right there and then, I just remember thinking, wow, this is cool. I could do that. I already liked Salt-N-Pepa by that point. I remember for the next few years, we didn't have internet back then, so we couldn't look up lyrics. So if you didn't get it in the sleeves of the CDs or whatever, or the tapes at that time, then you had to just listen and learn it. So we used to sit there and write them lyrics out and, pause it, write a bit, play, keep going. And I was doing that stuff from really early on. So I think that all of the steps along the way were happening without me being conscious of it. And I focused a lot more on sports while I was at school. But once I got out of it, my first job was at a community radio station. So I was back, amongst all of the music again. Started dancing a little bit and, ended up auditioning for the Aboriginal Center for the Performing Arts. Honestly, the reason I did that was actually because there was a lot of death happening around me at the time. It had been for a few years, and I just thought to myself, like, what should I be doing as a 19-year-old? I don't have any responsibilities. I don't have any dependents. I should just do something that I love doing, and, we'll see how it goes, and then I'll make up my mind from there. So honestly, that's just what got me to the performing arts school and auditioning. But that was a crossroads for me because I ended up really focusing in and being thrown into the performing arts world and training for the next 5 years and picking up all the skills that I needed to kind of step out into the industry, and still here, many years later. Things that we've picked up during that time, things that you can kind of transfer into other industries.
I want to go back to that time. So you're a young woman. There's so many challenges just happening.
Yeah.
The landscape at that time in the 90s, just being a young woman. What were some of those challenges that sort of led you down to needing that outlet for yourself?
Well, I think that as young Indigenous Australians, we're facing racism before we even know what is happening. You know what I mean? Like we're getting called these names, or we know that people are looking at us differently. And I grew up in Logan City, so nowadays you look at that and we know that there's over 250 different cultural backgrounds living in this city, and it's actually a beautiful thing. But it wasn't always like that, and then wherever we go, we can get a very different reception, whether it's out in the country or whether it's in the city, and you start to pick up on these little things. And as you get a bit older, like it's very normal. I was very angry because I felt helpless. When you're younger, you have this like sense of wanting to change the world and contribute in a positive way, but you don't always know how you can do that. So sometimes it can, show up in different ways. You fight back or whatever. But the lucky thing for me was that I grew up absolutely loving reading. I had adults around me who taught me a lot, and I think I got early chances to learn how to communicate to the best of my ability. I was very confident from the get-go, ready to argue my point. So I guess I just thought I can write this stuff in my journal, and then it eventually turned into a bit of poetry. And I grew up watching hip-hop and R&B music videos because we didn't have that representation of black and brown faces on Australian TV. If you watch some of the shows that are on every night, we weren't represented anywhere. But if you watched music videos on Rage or Video Hits on the weekend, you could see someone who, we're not the same cultural background, but they look similar to our mums and aunties and dads and uncles and that. And it wasn't just what we saw, but with rappers, they were talking about issues that were happening over in the States, like deaths in custody, racism, you know, all of that stuff. And it was things that we could relate to.
Shared struggle.
100%, even though we're on the opposite sides of the world. So I think for me, it was just something that was there right in front of me. And, you know, you can go around and get into fights, but you know that's wrong, right? So how do you grab at a different tool to help you express those frustrations and just do it in a more positive way where you can actually get something back from it? That's what I like to tell kids, you know, like, yeah, you can go fight someone, but what are you going to get out of it? Get in trouble with the law or whatever. If you write a song and you're passionate about it and you want to keep doing that, you can make money to support yourself or your family. You can get a very healthy buzz out of being on stage or, you know, just hearing something that you've done give joy to other people in your community. So have to live by that myself.
It's hard sometimes.
Oh, very hard.
Because you're getting pushed in society. Now, when you first kind of got into that landscape, I'm going to go and perform in arts and stuff. Do you remember the first time that you sort of danced at, say, a performance that you trained for? And take me back there and tell me how it felt that first time you really performed in front of, say, an audience.
I'm going to say that we always had an audience, but it was a lot smaller, you know, in the early days because, like I was saying, I was the eldest cousin and I used to make all my cousins come up with choreography and, you know, whether it was at a family get-together or whether it was on the little discos that we had at our house on Friday nights, we were putting on little performances, wanting to be the Spice Girls or whoever it was at the time. But outside of family, I do recall jumping up on stage at my very last parade at school. It took me that long to get up there because I guess, I don't know, the styles and stuff that were being taught in school at the time, though, it didn't really feel like a lot of us black and brown people could connect with that. And so we'd just meet up at lunchtime and, you know, we were thinking we'll cruise from You Got Served or one of those dance movies. And
of course,
we did that. And then we got our opportunities to jump up at the end of school. And I don't know why I waited that long, but I really enjoyed that. Like, it was fun. It wasn't really planned out. And then from there, you know, I was kind of just dancing around a little bit more when we'd be out. But then there were dance competitions that were happening. And back then it was the era of dance cruising. And people, you didn't go out unless you were going to dance. It wasn't like now where you just all stand around. So I started entering dance competitions with the encouragement of my friends. Won a few of those. And then I thought, oh, I can actually do something with this. But nothing beats performing to your whole community at like NAIDOC Week, Musgrave Park. Not necessarily, you know, getting paid a lot or whatever, but you wouldn't miss it for the world because that's where all your mob are and you're just there to have a good time. So I don't care how many gigs I do, like I always love to do those ones because it does take me back to that point in time where it's not about anything else other than just like having fun and having a laugh with all of your mob around you.
Yeah. And tell us, you know, some of the performances you've done. Share some of the work that you've done and some of the work in the community. And
yeah, I've always done. There were times where I was touring a bit more with my own music and doing those types of gigs, but at the same time, I was always in communities doing music workshops. Well, they're actually more like leadership workshops, but we used hip hop as a tool to bring out some confidence and I guess be appealing to the younger people so we could achieve some of those things that we were there to do. But so traveled all around Australia to remote Indigenous communities and like rural towns, to places that people won't even go in their lifetime, don't even know exist. So very blessed to be able to see all the different countries across Australia. And then, that type of work specifically took me overseas to New York, and I performed in New York, and we volunteered at a summer camp that was for kids that were affected by sickle cell and HIV. And as much as it sounds like a good thing to do from our end to give back and all of that, that was actually a blessing for us as well. It opened my eyes up, and that was one of those things in my time that I'll never forget about. I really appreciated the opportunity to go over there and share the tools that I've been given with those kids over there too. And yeah, but like I was saying, alongside that, I was always doing my gigs. So I've been lucky enough to work with artists like TLC, Nelly, Lupe Fiasco, B.O.B. You would know that because you got on stage with me. People don't know, but he's a rapper too. That's where we all started.
We were drifting in them clubs.
We definitely were, yeah. But yeah, also hosted Sierra and Jay Holiday. There's a bunch more, but yeah, obviously a lot of local artists as well who are still my friends to this day.
And a lot of your launches for your tracks and
yeah. So I'm 100% self-managed and funded. So we haven't always, pumped out material like you would if you had the team of a big record label behind you. So sometimes those things are few and far between, but in between those things, you're still doing your gigs, you're still building those networks. And I honestly think that we could rock up to a hip hop show now and we would see all of our friends from back in those days as well.
Yeah,
it really is a beautiful community to be.
And the whole time you've been giving back.
Yeah.
Through your work in the community.
Yeah, well, as a blackfella, I think that we're always taught from the get-go that you should always pass on the tools that you learn. And especially as the eldest grandchild in the family, I think that's a huge responsibility that I have. Whatever I learn, I try to pass it on straight away because we're not about like individualism. Like we're about community, and we should share what we've got, and help everyone eat and get ahead in life and be as healthy as they can. But that's also from the hip hop community side of things as well. There is that slogan, each one teach one. So whichever culture I'm leaning into, whether it's hip hop or my Aboriginal culture, it's like a law on both sides that I 100%. Have to do that, and I love to.
100%. It's in you. It's in your DNA. Yeah. Knowledge sharing, community giving back.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about. I think you mentioned all those great shows and artists you've worked with. Is there any other highlights that come to mind? It could be nothing to do with that work. It could just be, you helped a friend plan her dream wedding. Just a highlight for you of some of the work you've done.
A bigger one, which is funnily enough a little more recent, was the first time that I got to do my own show on country over on Stradbroke Island. So, so close to home, so close to where I've grown up. Not sure why it took that long, but doing that, I kind of just approached it like any other gig, but it wasn't until I was about to get on stage and I was like, oh, this is different. Like all my ancestors will be here watching what I'm doing, and it's a special thing to be able to say that I've been in the industry for as long as I have. And come back to country and bring all my artist friends back with me for them kids and aunties and uncles to see. But it has a different feeling, It's like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but being on country is just something else. Like the connection to country and being able to bring your skills back there and share it is so, so important. And I would take that feeling over being on a stage at a festival with tens of thousands of people any day.
We've talked about this amazing gift that you've been sharing in community and being on country and that feeling. How has, let me get this right. Apart from giving that gift, has it healed you in a way?
Mm-hmm. Never-ending healing. And sometimes when I feel a little bit lost, I have to go back to it and remind myself that I have that there as a tool. Like, we're talking about using hip hop as a tool to help other people bring out things like confidence and, give a bit of structure to your life, something to look forward to. But we need to remember that that's why we started it as well. Whether it's writing lyrics, that can be quite cathartic because maybe you're not a journaler, but it's the same thing. Like, you're writing out your thoughts and feelings in your lyrics. And then, say if you're preparing for a show or a tour, gives you something to focus on. You're training, all of a sudden your mindset's changed. You're trying to focus on eating as well as you can, and you're at the gym or you're rehearsing or whatever. On those physical and emotional levels, like, that's there, and that's something that you can really tap into. But for me, as cliche as it sounds, like, hip hop saved my life, because there were probably more than one moment in my life where it was like a crossroad. And I am very blessed that I have other things that I can lean into. I'm not limited to only doing that one thing. But reminding myself that it is there and I can pick it up whenever I want to. And it is something that I can use to heal me at any time. Maybe, like I was saying, maybe I just need to write something out and get it out of my system and release it and let it go. Or it could be that, you do get up on stage and you just feel all that deadly energy that you get when you're up there, and you don't always realize that there's somebody in the crowd that's really holding on to the words that you're sharing, or that, when I saw Salt-N-Pepa up on stage, I hope that when I'm on stage, there's a 6-year-old girl that's like, oh, I reckon I could do that, So all of it's healing.
You mentioned the word crossroads, and what were some of those crossroads?
When I auditioned to go to performing arts school, I was actually in court at that time, and I was very lucky that I had support around me. But when Leah Purcell came in to be the artistic director there, she actually didn't know me. We were meeting for the first time. Obviously, our families, knew each other over different generations. But I was in court for a charge that I could have gone to jail for. And luckily, I hadn't been in trouble any other time, and I was studying, and by the time we went to court, I had been able to show that I had things going for me. But, like, I do think back to those moments where it could have gone the other way, and I wonder how different my life would be. And I really just am so grateful that I got the opportunity to go in a different direction, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support around me. But it was on me to take the opportunity that was in front of me and to desperately learn and pick up tools that could help me move down that new path in a healthier way for myself.
And having those support systems, great people, those outlets, for anyone out there that might be struggling and not having those outlets, how important is it for them to take that opportunity that they might not see as an opportunity to help them get out of that place?
So important. When you're in that place, you often can't see past what's right here in front of you. Even to the point where you might not even think to ask for help. But I am, an example of, if you speak up, you ask for help, you might not even know how you need help, but just ask for it. And you never know. Like I said, Leah Purcell didn't know who I was back then, that was a relationship that we formed a lot further on down the track and continued to form today. But there were many Leahs in my life, and I know that I am very lucky to be able to say that, because my family, for starters, have always been very supportive and pushed me to be the best version of myself. I've had great teachers and Leah was another person along that track. But yeah, if you have that one person in your life that you think you could maybe reach out to, then give it a crack and, see if you can get some support. But whatever your thing is, it might not be music, it could be sport, it could be, anything else. Could be church, whatever. Just give it a go, because it's not going to hurt, Like, you have to just decide that I have to make a change here and lean into even the slightest bit of opportunity that's in front of you to go in a different direction.
Love it. It's very important just to take that first step.
Mm-hmm. One step
Even
at a time.
Acknowledging that, hey, it's okay for me to feel this way.
Yeah. And I can guarantee that you're not the first person in the world that's been in that position, even though your brain will be telling you that no one else understands.
And it's the people that you think wouldn't be. You see all these people and you think they're killing it, and social media is distorting our vision of reality.
100%.
It can make you feel, how much of an impact is social media having on young artists these days?
A huge impact, for the good and the bad. You can really use social media as a tool to reach places and people that we would have struggled to reach back when we were starting out. But it is definitely something that you need to be in control of. Unfortunately, we see a lot of people with, body dysmorphia and online bullying and all those things. So I do feel for people who are affected by that type of stuff. And I think we might have been lucky to be that last generation to kind of live before the internet and social media became a thing. It was something that we had to learn as well. And we probably resisted for a while, like old school. We just do stuff in person, But like I said, it is something that you can lean into. And if you are conscious of what you're exposing yourself to, then it can actually be a really powerful tool. Make sure you consume the good stuff.
Yes. Fill your feed with positivity and all that good stuff. And creative people generally are wired. There's mental health issues there as well. Yep. Is that anything you've experienced? Mental health side of things they tend to go hand in hand. I'm making that assumption. But yeah, any experience with that? Any examples of how you may have got through that?
Yeah, definitely. There's been many times, not just as a blackfellow, but more so in our communities, we experience a lot of grief and loss, and it's almost normalized from a very young age. When I was 14, one of my best friends back then, he was murdered, and that was my first experience of a really heavy loss. And that definitely changed who I was at the time, and still to this day. So back then, no one was really going to counselling, or it wasn't something that maybe our parents or our teachers or anyone around us would, send us to do as a priority. So I think that carried, a heavy kind of weight with me, like into my adult years as well. And it was something that maybe I didn't really deal with until a bit later on, and continue to deal with, because as you would know, like in our community, we often don't get the opportunity to finish grieving someone before we lose the next person. And it just feels like it's nonstop sometimes. So that has definitely affected my mental health, and is a big part of why I needed to pick up a pen and pad and write some raps, because I just needed to get some of those things out. And often you don't even know what you're feeling until you start writing it out. So that's something that I'm constantly still trying to remind myself of, is checking in with myself about where I'm at with dealing with grief, because that's been a big challenge for me, an ongoing thing, and become more and more apparent on how important it is for us to be conscious of that struggle for us. I know a lot of other people out there struggle with different diagnoses and stuff like that, and I guess we are lucky that we live in a world today where we can acknowledge that, and there's a bit more support out there. So yeah, I think, like I was saying before, if you are somebody who's on social media a lot, if you make sure that you watch what you're consuming, you can also use social media to tap into some of those tools that can benefit your mental health as well. And sometimes you feel like a lot of people feel more comfortable speaking to a stranger than they do the ones that are close to them in their life. So social media can be a powerful tool for that as well.
It's great advice, checking in with yourself. That's a really big one.
Yeah.
First, and then knowing, we sort of covered it, those support networks and people and resources, and the same thing that could be taking you down the rabbit hole, you can quickly put in a search that can help
flip it,
bring you out of that.
But also go outside. I'm a saltwater person, and often, I might get to a point where I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, something feels off. And then I realize I haven't been to the beach for a month or two. And that's all I need. I just need to go outside and get some sun and smell that salt water and put my feet in there and, just lay on the sand.
Cheeks out, eh?
Yeah. Got to soak up that vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Now, who's been the biggest influence in your life?
Ooh. It's hard to say one.
You can say multiple.
Collectively, all of the deadly women in my life. For better or for worse, we live in a community where the women are usually at the center of it, and they're the glue that holds us all together. Sometimes too independent, but that's just what we've had to do to survive. Definitely my mum has been my constant, my number one constant in my life. And, being at this age, I now know that she was quite young when she had me, and my brother not long after that. She worked very hard. She was a professional woman, and had to, juggle that with being a single mum. With the help of our community, she was able to do that. And my mum leaning into those people around us also brought other, deadly aunties and that into our life. But my nan is also my biggest, biggest hero. And she was only a little woman, but when she spoke, people listened. And I guess that's the power in not talking all the time, that when you say something, people know that you've actually got something to say. And yeah, she was a fiery little woman that even grown men would, they'd shut up and they'd listen. So that's a powerful thing to have. And there were, back then, I think my first job was cleaning Meerooni, which was where Nan worked at. And now I think about it, she must have been paying me out of her own pocket. Because there wasn't a real lot of money in the, black orgs. And I just think about that generation who constantly showed up every day, probably weren't making any money, yet still found a way to do the work and set all these things up for our generation. No, I work in a world where I can get a salary to go and support my brothers and sisters out there in the community, which can also help me support my family. And that was just something that actually didn't exist back then. So sometimes I think I don't know how they did it, but I guess they did it out of necessity. Always grateful for them. Like, I'll give a shout out to the generation of Brisbane blacks that, started out. I feel very grateful to come from, staunch warriors who pushed forward and showed up all the time, and maybe didn't always have the tools to look after themselves the best, but tried their best to look after the rest of us.
What's your fondest memory of Nan?
Wow, there's actually so many. I was always with Nan, all the time. And as I got older, Nan came to gigs and go pick her up on the way to work and take her to the radio station with me. And she would, I don't know, we just hung out all the time, I would sit there and debate politics and whatever with Nan. We loved a good debate. I think what I would be really grateful for is that I was meant to model for Reebok at the Melbourne Fashion Festival. And this was in 2020, just before COVID hit. It was all locked in. And Nan hadn't been to Melbourne before, but she'd been wanting to go for a while because, you know, she knew of all the activism that existed in Victoria and how a lot of that was a building block for what ended up happening elsewhere in Queensland and all of that. So Nan was keen to come to Melbourne. She wanted to watch me walk and she wanted to go do her thing. She also went for Melbourne Storm, which tried not to hold against her. But yeah, she came down and then COVID hit the world and the whole festival got shut down at the same time as the rest of the world. And we actually got sent back home, which at the time I felt disappointed that I didn't get to fulfill that dream that I had to walk the runway. But we ended up losing Nan during the pandemic. So I think that was yeah, that was a gift that was given to me to be able to spend that time with Nan and have that trip. And I'm so, so grateful for it.
Thank you for sharing. I know how important she was to you.
Yeah.
And that hard work, doing what she had to do, and only getting this much, but still giving you that to instill within you what you've actually been doing in community. That's been ingrained in you.
Yeah, and that's why I try to find a balance of taking care of myself, but try to, you know, get out there and I take that responsibility seriously because, like you said, Nan and my mum's generation as well, they did so much for us to be able to have the freedom to fly. You know, you just come back from Sydney this morning. I came back from Melbourne the day before. We can get on a plane at the drop of a hat and move around wherever we want. We don't have to ask permission to travel. And it was only in such recent generations where our mob couldn't leave the missions without getting permission. So there's that. But there's also spaces where we're still the first Black person to do something in, you know, and it's crazy that we're still there. But if we have to be that person, then so be it. Let's go kick the door down. And I got that from my mum and Nan and all of them aunties and uncles.
And I think anyone that knows you well enough to know that that's what you're about and what you stand for. And if you're passionate about something, you fight for it.
Yeah.
Through your music and through the work you're doing in the community. What does the next 12 months, 3 years, I'm not worried about calendar, but what does the next steps forward look like for Kaylah?
Well, I've just returned home from living in Victoria for a few years. I am at the point in my life where I do want to be at home and I want to find more opportunities to be on country a bit more. And I have these awesome little nephews who are little maniacs as well. And I missed them while I was gone. So I think for me, like my main role that I want to step into is just being an auntie. I'm ready to be Auntie Kaylah in all of the meanings of that word. I just want to go to football on Sunday mornings and be there to support my mum a bit more. And it seems like such a different plan. You know me. I could have, a couple of years ago, I would have told you my 5-year plan and it would have looked insane. It would have been things that were all focused on work and those types of achievements. But I just feel like I've lived a few lives already and I'm blessed to be able to say that. So yeah, family, country, and figuring out, you know, there's still so much that I need to learn when it comes to language and different things about my country and the things that I feel that I now have to really, really learn so I can pass it on to my nephews and them other ones around me.
It's a huge journey.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's kind of like you need to go through what you've been through to now make that next journey. And I know, you know, some of the things that you've done in your life, but I still know that the most important things are yet to come for you. Because it's a deeper journey. It's a real spiritual reconnection.
Yeah, it was like we just spent all these years just peeling back the layers and different challenges and good things at every layer. And you continually learn about what is important. And you kind of get there and you realize it's not necessarily out there. It's like all in here. And I have been so blessed to grow up like max an hour boat trip away from my country. And yet I haven't spent as much time there as I'd like to. So now it's all about making sure that we don't take those things for granted. And if that means I write an album in the language that I learn, that would be amazing. But maybe it won't be that, you know, but we'll see what comes of it. When I was in Melbourne, I was very blessed to be able to work alongside the mob down there on the Treaty for Victoria campaign. And it gave me a bit of an insight into the blueprint of what could potentially work elsewhere. So I think that we're a little far from achieving that here right now, but I do feel a call to, you know, talk to my mob and see what we can do and see if we want to play a part in kind of achieving that in our area somewhere in the near future. So yeah, it's just all about my people and community and culture, which it always has been, but I guess it's stepping into that role, being at this age and being that young auntie.
Feels like your purpose.
Yeah,
True purpose.
I would 100% say so. I think that even though I don't really know what it looks like just yet or what it will look like, I think everything I've done up until this point is just been me collecting information and collecting tools and figuring myself out to be able to bring all of that back together to come back and be like, okay, maybe we have to revive and, you know, revitalize our languages. Okay, well, let's make a song because people know how to, you know, sing along to a song, and that's usually how our brains retain it. So maybe we were learning how to rap so I could come and keep our language going. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I agree. We literally, like, this week, we're at the language symposium, the State Library, talking about language. And I'm hearing uncles from the NT in his early 70s coming to tears about language and I'm just sitting there like trying to document this stuff, just getting all like it's a beautiful thing, but it's also humbling because it's that journey and like, man, there's an obligation to this now.
There really is. When my nan passed away, as someone who feels like I spent as much time as possible with her, I still felt like there were so many more things that I wanted to ask and I didn't get the opportunity to do that. But that's something that we have to remind ourselves of. Our old people are passing away and with them our cultural libraries are going, you know, unless we've taken the opportunity that we could to get as much out of them as possible. And I believe, you know, everything happens how it's meant to. So there's probably more stuff that's sitting inside of me that I didn't realize I soaked up. And I hope that I can tap into that, you know, as I'm moving through this next part of my journey. But it definitely is an obligation. When my nan passed away, there was something about the shift where I felt like, oh, I just got moved up a generation. And that was just such a strange and important feeling to have that I guess I didn't really see coming. But yeah, since then it's just been a lot of reflection, and I'm ready to step into my responsibility with that.
You mentioned there's so many things you would have asked if you got one question.
Oh my God, I don't know if it would be a question. I just wish that I maybe did this more, like just hit record. I don't know if Nan would have wanted me to do that, but them old people, they're a bit private. But I did so much talking to Nan, and I was very blessed to be able to do that. And I just wish maybe I recorded it so that the younger ones could have heard those yarns if they didn't. And like you were saying, documenting. We do live in an age now where we have technology and almost anyone can operate it. So I know, write those books and film those yarns, or just record the yarns and you can go back and listen to it, I'm actually lucky that Nan used to be with me all the time, because I've got a music video from a community project where Nan raps on it.
Wow.
I don't know how we managed to get her to do that, but I've got that. And then there's another documentary that Leo Purcell was producing where they did a segment on a bit of my life, and we go, to one of the family homes, and Nan's talking on that too, and so is my mum and all that. So I am grateful that I got those opportunities, because I can listen to Nan's voice when I want to. But I just wish I did more of it, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely feels full circle moments. When you're a kid, you don't understand it. You don't understand that knowledge that is right there.
Yes.
Or you're sitting on the lap of that knowledge holder because you're a kid. You've been through, haven't experienced the racism, you haven't experienced the hardship and the heartache and the ups and the downs. And then here we are, you and I 10 years ago would have been talking about who's driving to the Gold Coast.
Which would have been you.
Yeah, that's right. Here we go. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. No, it's good to have these yarns, and at the same time, there's all this sort of stuff that's trying to silence truth telling. It's almost like where now you and I right here are just going, no. We're not going to be silenced. Truth telling is not going to stop.
And we don't need permission to tell our truth. We never have. We've been telling our truth this whole time.
Our Kaylah Truth?
No.
Had
to.
No. You're right. Like, don't need permission.
Yeah.
We have the tools now. We have the cameras. We have the phones.
Yep.
We developed all the media skill sets through the performing and the writing, the acting and the producing and the scheduling. Maybe it's just been the warm-up.
I think so. Every important position I find myself in at different points in my life, I often feel like I just have this moment of clarity where I'm like, oh, that's why I did all of that. It was just to get me ready for this moment.
That's why I needed that lesson.
Yeah.
We're being proper wise here, eh? You and I?
We're auntie and uncle now.
Wow, look out. They call me uncle now. And then young ones, when they call you uncle and auntie, you're like...
Speaking of, that's why I needed to stop going to the Gold Coast and stuff, because they call me auntie now out there.
Wow.
Yeah. Wasn't ready for that.
Remember that first time, eh? You're like...
Who are you talking to?
Yeah. And them greys started coming through. I'm like, all right.
We embrace the greys now.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I'd love to sort of close with possibly just an ethos, a quote, a statement, something you live by, a word of advice, anything. The ball's in your court. You can just take the stage.
I resonate with so many different things over different points in my life. A simple quote that's always stuck with me was, I don't know who said it, but the don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And at some point in my young life, that really spoke to me. And I think that it pops up every now and then, and it's just a reminder that some things don't last forever, but there's beauty in the fact that it even happened. And sometimes we're so busy and on the go, and one of my biggest challenges has been to remind myself to be in the moment and soak up the beauty of being there instead of being so caught up in what comes next, you know? So I think that for me, I'd just say try to be in the moment, acknowledge all the hard work that you did to get to that moment, but don't rush into the next one quicker than you have to.
And that comes straight back to you saying that checking in with yourself, not just when it's bad. Or maybe I feel like it's going well. Let's check in.
Mm-hmm.
Grounding. Let's be present. Acknowledge that this is a beautiful day, and being present is not easy. Here I am, like, yeah, we'll close it out, and I'm like, but it's nice. I really believe that that's inward, you know, looking inward instead of looking forward, and
Yeah.
it's a nice way. Now, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere at Kaylah Truth. Now I'm on all of the good streaming services and on YouTube and social media. I do love a bit of social media, I'm not going to lie. I like to try to have some restrictions around it these days. No screen Sundays, breaks when I need to, but everything, I'm at Kaylah Truth. So
Amazing.
find me there. Otherwise, you'll just see me at the next community event.
That's it. No screens on Sunday unless this screen. You'll be home.
Unless you're watching this one?
This
Yeah.
one. Deadly sis, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, and it's good to see your face again.
No, it's too deadly. And now we'll have all the stories come out. Now we're going to cut the camera. That's a wrap.